Tara, I think this is a good time to kick it off. I'm just going to start and
All right, let's
go
do
from
it.
here. Perfect. Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining. My name is Karan Bhalla, CEO of AiVantage. And with me, I have Tara. I'll just do a very quick introduction of myself and then pass it on to Tara. Been in financial services for a long time. I started my career at Capital One. So I've been on the banking side and I was in the department. I got a job in a department called M&A. I was super excited. I'm going to be doing mergers and acquisitions, only to find out that at Capital One, it used to mean marketing analysis. So I started my career in marketing and then data science. And I've been doing that now for a long time. Back in the day when data science was not cool, back from then. So with that, I'll pass it over to Tara, the other presenter. Tara?
Yeah, thanks, Karan. My name's Tara Graff. I am the Chief Impact Officer at the Minnesota Credit Union Network. I joined the network in November. I have about 15 years in credit unions, and prior to that, I kind of came of age in the ad agency world as a copywriter and broadcast producer. So at the network, I oversee Marcom, support a lot of our non-dues revenue initiatives, philanthropy, events, and education. So lots of fun, love being part of that group, and that's how Karan and I cross paths. I'm also a boy mom of a high schooler now, so hard to believe.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Tara, do you want to introduce TruLync and the network?
Yeah, so the Minnesota Credit Union Network is the Trade and Advocacy Association for all 83 Minnesota credit unions, provide a lot of fun events, networking, educational opportunities, and then we, as part of TruLync, provide some services to our credit unions. You may have heard of the Wincentive PrizeLink Savings. We've helped members save about $10 million over the last 10 years, actually just celebrated our 10-year anniversary with that product. And then our TruLync Medicare Advisors, where we provide completely free of charge to credit union members Medicare guidance, whether they're enrolling for the first time, want a plan review. It's a tough decision, emotional decision, so something we're proud to support.
I just got a note that the screen is not visible. So let me just make sure the screen is, oh, there you go. This might be a little bit better for everybody. Thank you. This is the background. Let me just go back. Perfect. I think this works a little bit better. Oops. Second. Okay. Thank you, everybody. Thanks, Tara, for that. Like I mentioned, my name is Karan Bhalla. I've been in financial services. I'm CEO of AiVantage now. Over the last, I got into the mid and small size financial services space, which is basically your community banking and credit unions about 15 years ago. Over the course of the last 15 years, have served over 100 financial institutions. The executive team we have here has over 75 years of experience. On the right-hand side, you'll see some of the banks and some of the credit unions. You'll see some of the bigger banks too, because we have had large clients as well. But I'd say as time has gone on, we've really concentrated our effort down to really from I'd say the mid and small size, under $10 billion type institutions. And part of the reason for that is they're great to work with. Obviously, it's a great industry, as Sarah was kind of talking about, with credit unions, very give back community, but also really enjoy the loyalty that members have to those institutions. So I think anything that, as we talk about AI and some of the examples of work we've done, it's a good note that it's a little bit different when members are interacting with credit unions as opposed to banks. There's a whole service-minded approach to it. For today's topic, we're really going to spend a little bit of time talking about AI at the credit union space, AI in financial services, and talk about how together we are working with the TruLync team to bring some of that to the credit unions. I also will talk a little bit about how some of the trends and how institutions we know are using services. So to give you a sense, because I know a lot of credit unions struggle with the first step, or some that have started are thinking about what next, or where can I get the highest ROI. So we'll talk a little bit about that too. And then by the end, my hope is that we give you a little bit of a path that if you wanted to start on a project, you've got the next few steps to act on. So with that, jump in. There should be a Q&A question. So if there's, again, any questions at all there, please feel free to jot them in. By the end of the presentation, we'll make sure we get to them. So AI is no longer a future trend. I mean, everybody should know this. I mean, this is very, very off age. I think I kind of, we talked, I think Terry mentioned a high schooler there. My second son is just graduating high school and going into university. And even for him, I think he's known the world of AI, and he's 18. And so really from the last, I'd say 7, 8 years, it's been very prevalent. I know a lot of his even homework and things have been done through that. So it's a very interesting world that we kind of operate in. And I think you have to start thinking, as credit unions think about having younger members, that is your future member base, right? So just some kind of basic stats, 54% of institutions we know have deployed initiatives. Last year, that was lower. I actually think the 40% is a bit of a stretch, but that's sort of what's out there. But over the last few years, we've seen a consistent increase. And yet today, I sometimes sit and I have conversations with institutions saying that we're not ready. We're still thinking about what we want to do. Obviously, data protection and sort of safety and security is important, but there are a lot of institutions out there that are using AI and have deployed initiatives out there with it. The other thing that I've seen more and more is there has been a bit of a shift. There's two sides of this, and I don't say shift necessarily, but we've got institutions that use AI for internal initiatives. Let me be more operationally efficient. Let me use it for risk, something that doesn't really, things that aren't necessarily as member facing. But we are seeing that shift as well, because your members are interacting more and more with AI. Institutions are bringing more of that in to front and center for their consumers. So 61% we are seeing now institutions that are using Gen AI with customer facing or member facing as one of their top initiatives. And frankly, 80% of the Gen Zs and younger millennials are actually using AI for financial planning. I set up a UTMA account a long time ago. So these UTMA accounts are for underage. Used to put a little bit of money in stock accounts, so some way that I could create a portfolio for my sons. And since my oldest is 20, so the last 2 years he's been over 18, and at 18 they get ownership of that product. In the last 2 years, I think every 2 months he comes and says, "Hey, Dad, can you please transfer that account over to my Robinhood account?" And it's just the reality of the world they live in. I mean, they're expecting AI. Robinhood's using it very, very actively. They're looking at some of these neo banks. They're looking at some of the fintechs that offer these solutions out there. That is the world that they're playing in. I mean, I've told him many times that let me make sure I keep it within the credit union environment itself. But that's where he's most comfortable. I know that my 18-year-old is just already, I told him the other day, you're going off to university. You got to start looking at bank accounts that will serve your need down there. Obviously, my first thought was get the university credit union. And he's come back with, I think, 3 banks and 1 credit union as an option. I think one of them is Chime. So again, just realize when you think about engaging with your younger members, being technology first or technology focused is going to be very important in the next few years. But the good thing is it's not all that we're running behind. I mean, 65% of credit unions are increasing AI investments. And if you're not doing it, I really hope everyone here is one of the 65%. And it's evolved a lot. I mean, back then, I think the first AI implementations that we saw was in the chatbot space. We saw a lot of folks using chatbots, virtual assistants. That evolved a little bit into the risk space. Underwriting was being used a little bit more with AI. Into document and process re-engineering stuff. So this is all back office, but we are seeing that shift happen a lot more towards personalization. Obviously at AiVantage, if you'll follow us, I know we've got some many folks on the line who I've met and talked to over the years. We bring personalization to credit unions. So we take all the data and make very, very curated experiences for members. And it was very reassuring to hear that 66% of credit unions predict that they'll be using more personalized member engagement. At the same time, not to get too comfortable, even though we have made inroads into the space, banks are accelerating fast. I mean, it is a competitive world. Even in some of the more, one of the advantages we used to have, we were in some communities where larger banks and even some of the regional banks would not serve. So we were the dominant players serving certain communities. Now with the technology era, a lot of those members are now being approached and targeted by the larger banks. So I think there's a continued urgency. That's the rate of change has accelerated. So, I mean, you have to be able to continue to evolve and keep up with some of the competition that's out there. And I think with the whole Robinhood and Chime, and frankly, even with the Chasers of the world, the competition continues to evolve, and it's still there. And it's probably more real now than ever with that use of technology. But there's also, like I said, this credit unions are using very actively. I've got 6 sort of use cases that we pulled up where AI is being used, and I'll walk through some of them. Obviously, your most common example, we're seeing more about these virtual assistants and chatbots, sometimes even voice agents that are being used. Harvard Federal has Ivy. They call their product Ivy. Michigan State, as you know, very forward-looking, very forward-looking at credit union, invests heavy in technology. Their chatbot or their virtual assistant is called Fran. It started off, I remember, with Michigan State used as a test case. I think to one of the incubator programs has now since evolved into a much more wider use of Fran out there. ViStar is automating risk and underwriting using AI. Navy Fed has started doing a lot more member-facing AI use cases. And this is not, people worry there's a lot of talk about what is it going to do for my job? How's it going to affect me? In Navy's case, they've done these 35 use cases without affecting a single job. And I'll give you an example of one. Reaching out to your and it's not all cross sells, it's not all emails. Sometimes it's actually just taking data and processing it. They are very good about if you are actively using a car workshop, they will reach out to you and tell you that you need to have talk to them about buying a car. So they have automated that using AI. So they've added more intelligence into that capability and brought that to members. So that's an example of something that they're doing there. Dupaco, again, another very forward-thinking credit union, has grown tremendously over the last few years. They use voice AI to detect fraud. So they actually have an AI agent running there to see if the person that's calling in matches a lot of characteristics. And it's an ongoing fraud score, which is really cool. As the conversation continues to happen, as the conversation continues to happen, they are evaluating for fraud throughout the process. And then marketing and growth, Extra Credit Union is using AI to deliver personalized CD operations. Forum is using it to reduce document management and reduce loan processing time. So, these are 6 different examples out there. I think every credit union should be trying, if not one of these 6, trying something. But again, AI is going to be the next forefront. I think of it as analytics of the 2010s or the internet of the 1990s. So if you think, how the impact that it's had on technology and innovation, that's what AI is doing for folks here today. A lot of credit unions, I get asked a lot to sort of come talk to boards and present about, hey, what should we be doing if we want to take the first step, if we want to build an AI strategy, how can we be better prepared as an organization for AI? And there's a few things you can do, obviously. The first thing is I think you should start thinking, or at least leverage your peer network. Credit unions are very good about that, sharing and peer engagement. But policy readiness, come up with an AI policy, at least come up with a basic framework, and I'll give you some guidelines towards. And please reach out to me. At the end, I have quite a few policies on AI. If you'd like to bring in acceptable use policies, how your employees can use it, how you can use it from a vendor standpoint. So taking that approach, and I think bringing that over to the due diligence side when you look at your vendors too. So check requirements, make sure they're qualified, make sure they understand data security. I know that's a big thing with AI. But don't stop there. Start with one use case, whether it's a small one, whether it's an enterprise one, but start with something. If you are able to digest and you're already in a very tech-heavy organization, maybe an enterprise one is the right way to go for you. But if you're a smaller credit union and you just want to dabble with it, you want to figure out, hey, how is AI going to bring me those efficiencies that everybody's talking about? Well, let's start with a small use case. Make sure you've got an internal champion. Nothing works without internal champions. And even as a vendor, when we go into the credit union, one of the first things we say is who's going to be the champion of this particular project internally, and that's what makes us be successful. So I think an internal project is as important as ever. And then build a learning culture. So you're going to find wins and losses, right? So how can you take the wins and replicate them more? How do you take the losses, learn from them, and fix things that you're going to do forward? Don't take the first project, if it doesn't go perfectly the way you like, and think about, oh, that didn't work out right. Well, we're done. Make sure you're using this as a bit of a learning. Encourage that. And with learning comes failures. So just make sure you're prepared for that as well. And then leverage your network. I kind of touched on this a little bit earlier. Credit unions are very, very free and willing to help each other out. And your QSO network, these are obviously credit union servicing organizations, folks like Tara, Um, and like us, we're a QSO as well, just very focused on sort of making sure we can help the other organizations succeed. This is a collaborative environment, and that's one of the things that I think I love the most about the credit union movement is the fact that we are so collaborative. And with that, I kind of want to jump a little bit into a collaborative project that we did together. Tara, I'm going to pass it on to you. Just tell me when you want me to change the slide. But yeah, I want to just kind of give you a chance to talk about some of the work we've done, or just the TruLync success story.
Yeah, absolutely. I am really excited to share our success so far. And I think there's just so much upside and more we can do together. So just returning to our Medicare offering, kind of where this all started. We knew we had a fantastic product. We have saved members close to $1 million so far on their policies, which is pretty incredible. So we're making a really meaningful difference in people's lives. That's a significant dollar amount. And the issue was we were relying on each of our 42 credit union partners to do all the marketing and outreach. I am a former credit union CMO, so I know I have lived how those competing priorities can happen, and this might just not always be at top of mind. So we wanted to find a way to do that outreach for our partner credit unions and help more members. So we reviewed a number of different platform partners. I spent most of last summer doing this, and we were really excited to partner with AiVantage. And this is a few of the reasons why. The hyper personalization option, which we haven't done a lot of yet, and I'll kind of get into that and where we're going with this tool. But it was an easy entry point to start experimenting with AI generation. Compliance, of course, in our world is always a big deal, and the tool has some nice built-in compliance checks, has some built-in sentiment checks, so you get feedback on your messages that way. It supported the different credit unions with some architecture where we can keep things separate. So right now we've got 8 active credit unions. We're in the process of onboarding 9 more. So it was a way that we can keep reporting, get reporting enterprise-wide, project-wide, and then also per credit union. And then the support has just been amazing as we've gotten up and running with this. There's been some nice customizations and changes that we've made together just to improve the platform overall. And it's been really fantastic as we've gotten going with the platform. You can move to the next one. So why Medicare guidance is a great credit union moment. Obviously, this is high stakes. People are going through a lot of changes when they start to approach the Medicare age. They might be having some health changes, family changes, shifts in their income, job, just that identity. There's a lot that can go into getting to that age. So people are emotional. There's some high financial stakes at times too, and there's just so much information out there. When you turn the TV on during open enrollment in the fall, you hear from all kinds of spokespeople, William Shatner, those types of folks, shilling for different products. And we know that credit unions already have the trust of members, so it's a great place to start. This is a testimonial that's one of my favorites. This was from Mid-Minnesota credit union member. So this woman had been given the runaround. She was calling all over, couldn't even find a real person. And when she did, she was told, that options were completely out of her budget. It was just overwhelming. She connected with Tom at Mid-Minnesota, and this was actually during a Minnesota weather event, which if you're a Minnesotan can, how those can happen out of nowhere and be pretty intense. And she actually walked in after a recent blizzard because she didn't want to drive, met with Tom, and got that clarity that she was looking for, was able to enroll in a plan that fit her budget, and really felt great about her credit union relationship overall. So that is a nice benefit of this as well. We know that of our partner credit unions, we have about 250,000 that are approaching that Medicare age or in that bucket. So huge amount of potential to reach lots and lots of members. So our goal was to get that Medicare information out there, emphasizing our no pressure approach. Again, this is completely free to the member. Compliance, strengthening those member relationships, generating some non-interest income for our credit unions, and then keeping that lift really, really low for marketing teams because we know how busy they are. I certainly know how busy they can get. So next slide, please. So as a former CMO, of course, I had to give this endeavor a name. So we are calling our platform built on AiVantage TruLync's Launchpad. And a number of the reasons that we went with AiVantage listed here below, obviously is purpose-built for credit unions. It's very simple to get the data. We don't need to mess with any core integrations. My husband's a VP in IT, I know how complicated that can get. So generating a simple CSV file with easy inputs, easy fields, have a secure upload process. We can do the reporting program-wide and per credit union, open rates, click-throughs, unsubscribe, all those different engagement trends. Obviously, we like the sentiment and compliance checks too. So from our perspective, we're able to manage the campaign setup, the execution, the optimization really simply. It was a great place to get started with experimenting with AI, but then also there's a lot of opportunity to scale as we're ready to do deeper personalization with the product. Next slide, please. So a little bit about how we designed this. We created a cadence that we wanted to be consistent, but not overwhelming and not interfere with other marketing priorities. So we've got monthly emails that we deliver to start, just kind of building that awareness. Hey, this is a service your credit union offers. It's free to you. Here's some educational resources, webinars that we promote. So we start early at 62, then we kind of move in and do things a little bit more frequently as people get a little bit closer. And then at 65, we send a birthday email. Hey, happy birthday. Have you been thinking about Medicare? Because now's the time. Reach out to one of us. And then once people are in the bucket, we send open enrollment reminders, plan reviews, those sorts of things. We keep it really concise, really human. Underscoring that, of course, it's free, unbiased, there's zero pressure. We're sharing real member stories and then helping them out, just keeping track of those deadlines, reminders, follow-ups.
Can I just add, I mean, one of the things I know we've been talking about just from engagement standpoint, this is very akin to, think of it as a workflow that you can have as a credit union. I mean, yeah, this is over a period of many years, but you could be doing the same thing as a member comes on board, what the first 30 days of the journey looks like, or what our 90 days of the journey looks like. You can build it out very similarly. But it's been wildly effective. And I just, if there's any Minnesota credit unions on that are not a part of this, I think I just want to give a shout out because we are seeing just fantastic results coming out of that too.
Yeah, call me. So last fall, after we selected AiVantage, we designed a pilot to align with our annual enrollment period. So we ended up piloting with 4 of our member credit unions. North Star, they are, as the name would indicate, up north. They're about 100 million in assets, 6,200 members. Minnesota Power Employees Credit Union, 160 million in assets, 5,500 members. A Center Credit Union, a little bit south of the metro, 200 million in assets, 17,000 members. And then Greater Community Credit Union, 300 million in assets and 8,600 members. So we wanted to see if we were able to cut through the noise, what kind of engagement we would get, and if email marketing with this demographic was an effective front door to connecting with our Medicare team. And then how does this work as far as reducing the burden on the marketing teams and then keeping it also easy for the TruLync team? We are a small and mighty staff as well. So as we add more and more credit unions into the platform, wanted to make sure that this was easy to scale. So here's a snapshot of our results from the pilot. We were really thrilled to see this. We delivered about 2,000 emails. We had more than 7,000 total opens. Our average open rate was about 34.5%, which, when I was doing more product campaign marketing, looking for that 20-ish percent, 22% was always considered really successful. So we were really happy to see this. Incredibly low unsubscribe rates. So that really underscored that we were delivering relevant information that people wanted to keep receiving. So a few of the highlights: Minnesota Power Employees Credit Union has consistently had really high engagement, 45% open rates. And then this was a fairly small number that we started with, but we did see a 600% increase in leads year over year. Essentra Credit Union, they had been doing pretty consistent marketing on their own. So it was nice to see that we were able to generate a lift. So great repeat engagement. And then we saw a 56% increase in leads year over year with our cadence. So unsubscribe rate, the 0.05% versus the norm of about 0.15 to 0.27, 5 times better. Engagement quality. So our click-throughs were still pretty solid. I just wanted to put a little asterisk on that because with this demographic, we do get a lot of phone calls as well. But the opens and clicks tracked well together. And then next up, just a little bit more as far as the pilot results. We had a number of first contacts. You can see the uptick, and some of this was the seasonality of it too. So I do want to mention that 85 first contacts through October to December when we were doing the outreach. So that's a 325% increase. And then 49% of new policyholders we brought into TruLync Medicare Advisors program were in the interactive AI mailing list. So that's pretty incredible right there. So yeah, fantastic. Really, really excited about the pilot. And then moving on, with these results, we've been actively pitching more credit unions to come on to the platform. And we've got a total of 8 that are fully active. So our 4 pilot partners plus 4 more. And then we just keep getting yeses. So this is actually 9 that we are onboarding now. So things are going really well from that. And we're seeing continued great results here. So far in 2026, 19,000 emails have been delivered. Really consistent open rate, kind of hovering right around that 35%. Minnesota Power continues to lead the charge with the highest open rate. Incredibly low bounce rate. So we've had great data from our credit unions. And then, yeah, partners that we're onboarding in Q1 2026, that's even a little bit higher than that now. So yeah, the engagement, it's going really well, and we're excited to get more and more partners on the platform. Our goal is 25 by the end of the year. So we are on track.
Very much so. Very much so.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, thanks a bunch, Tara. And so I'm just gonna wrap it up, and we'll open up for questions. But we're strong believers. Hyper-personalization is the future of all interactions. I joke sometimes, as you know, we've talked a little bit about our kids in this webinar, and I reference my children a lot because they have. What I realize is just the way content is delivered nowadays. You don't need to have, it's not long stretches, 30 seconds, reels, and really probably, what is it? It takes a 2 or 3 second time to sort of flip your finger and move things up. So very short attention spans. And so I think the only way that we are going to be able to use digital technologies is by finding ways to really make things very, very personalized to folks. Obviously, the large providers, everybody knows Netflix personalizes, but even a lot of the smaller providers are starting to do that out there. And I think we got to start thinking about that as an industry, because hyper-personalized truly is the future of interactions. I came up with a quote. I haven't patented. Feel free to use it, or trademarked it. But feel free to use it out there. But I do think it's the way we're going to go. But it's not all easy. There are some barriers that we run into as again, coming out as we talk to credit unions, I run into a few things that pop up consistently. I mean, the first one obviously is data privacy and compliance, and I would never tell anybody to take that lightly. I think that's something you have to be very, very cognizant of. You have to be thinking about what data privacy means for you, and how you can make sure that it's addressed. So again, when you're thinking of your partners that you work with, make sure that's something that you are factoring in very closely. I'm used to doing. The second one is what is it? The status quo. The status quo. I do things a certain way. So there's a little bit of that legacy process, but there's also a little bit of a technology legacy process that I've got systems in place that have been around for a long time. How am I going to use them and embed them into my processes? How am I going to find ways to do this? I What I found over the years is that while that is a true challenge, and if you're trying to match things back to the GL, that'll always be a never-ending exercise. But a lot of that can be by taking on that small project that we talked about early on, or taking processes that you have underway today, where you're using smaller data sets, not necessarily working off, say, for example, the core. There's ways to start bringing AI into some of that. Resource and budgetary constraints, a big part of it. I think that's obviously, AI feels expensive, but for example, for us, we were going to hire 3 new developers this quarter in Q2. We've originally scaled that down to 2. We've now scaled that down to 1. So while we're still looking to grow, we're still adding on capability, but we're starting to lean on technology to make our existing folks more efficient. So it's definitely creating opportunities out there for us to be a lot more and I think in net, if I were to add it up over a course of not only this quarter, but definitely over the next 2 quarters, it's not as expensive. It feels like that coming in. But because it looks as an incremental cost per employee, for example, but if you then again start looking across the board, there's actually a savings that comes out of it too. So it's gone, and it's getting cheaper. The next version, I think, what have we done? When the next version of Claude comes out and we that 4.0 or 3.5, the previous ones get less expensive too. So you can do a lot of what you were doing, and the cost of that will go down, like it has for technology over the years. And the last one, I think, is that little bit of that analysis paralysis piece, which is I'm stuck. I don't know where to go. How do I make sure that I can do something? And this is why those steps that I talked about, and I'll come back to that just as a way to wrap up, is needed. That sort of initial boost that you might need. So there's 5 pillars that we say that you need if you want to start with AI integrations and bring some projects in, or start with certain things. There's 5 P's that we call it, the 5 P's of pillars of success. First is purpose. And why are you doing something for you? So identify a real purpose behind it. If you are going to take a series of projects that you might have and you're kind of evaluating that, it's a really good way to come up with what might be your top 3 priorities or top 5 priorities. People. You got to have somebody supporting it. There's a little bit of that internal champion, but that's obviously the champion side of it. But even from a ongoing monitoring or being involved, a little bit of time. At our company, one of the things we do, we've started giving everybody between 5 to 10. They have to come and propose a project, but between 5 to 10% of their time can be dedicated to an innovative learning exercise. It doesn't have to be AI only. It can be research as well. It can be product research, but that's how we are making sure that we bring innovation in there. So having people in there, I think is important, having the right people and having people who are willing to drive that kind of change. Map your process. If you're going to go out and try to evaluate success in a project, make sure you know what your original was. And this is your baseline, so to say. So map your existing workflows, then start thinking about how you can automate it. Again, I know it's not easy, but it's not as hard as you might be thinking as well. Make sure you're following policy. We touched on that earlier, I think in the previous slide too, regulations, policies. Make sure you've got a bit of a framework in place to use. Again, please reach out to me. We've got some. Happy to share. And then measure what matters. If you got to be able to measure it, as they say, if you can't measure it, then success is hard to sort of evaluate again. And we've come up with what we call sort of a SMART philosophy. We call it a successful AI philosophy. If you want a strategy, if you want to evaluate how your projects have been, clearly define challenge outcomes, make sure they're measurable, make sure they're achievable. Don't have a goal that's so far out. What do they say? It's got to be out of reach, but not out of sight. And I think in the case of a first project, you probably want to have it be out of within reach as well. So it's something that you're within sight. So something that you can do that's clearly measurable. So the first couple of times, and then take those bigger leaps and go out there. So make sure it's relevant. It's something that fits into your plan, fits into your goals or outcomes and KPIs that you might have for the next couple of years. And then set a time. I mean, this cannot be a never-ending exercise. Where in 3 years we're going to evaluate. I still remember when data became a big thing. These data warehouse projects used to be multiple year-long projects, and sometimes you talk to a credit union 6 months into it, and it's like, I can't talk right now. I'm on a 3-year project, and that's when I'm going to figure out if I've actually built it. And what we found is sometimes after 3 years, technology had changed. They had changed their core systems. Some systems had changed, and so having making sure that it's not too long and having sort of midterm goals as well as make sure things that are time bound will be very, very important to evaluating that successful AI strategy. And with that, I'm just going to pause, see if anybody has any questions. Thank you very much, everybody, for being a part of this conversation. And by the way, we do have some questions, Tara. I did already get one when you were speaking, so I want to bring that back to you. And the question was, what is the biggest surprise that you learned during the pilots with the first 4 credit unions?
Boy, biggest surprise. Hmm.
Willingness to share data, because I know we worked with you all on one and work together as partners.
Yeah, that,
Yeah.
um, no, I don't know that. I think with the process we had in place and the security layers and all of that, and it's not super sensitive data. It's all kind of publicly available. We're not asking for accounts or social security numbers. I think I think that the unsubscribes were just so incredibly low. I was really heartened that we were providing the right content. Really excited about that. And I think too, going forward, we learned a lot that we can, as far as continuing to personalize a little bit more deeply, we have some great opportunities to do even a little bit better. If people are still receiving Social Security, for example, that can change the message a little bit. If people are still working, that changes the message a little bit. So as we continue to refine, I just think we have a wonderful foundation to do more and more of that with the tool.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think that you're
Mhm.
right. There has been, and you're just kind of being part of that pilot with you all on the back end. There's been a huge willingness. Uh, and, and we talked a little bit about the lady that walked in the bad weather, but I think the other side from a
Mhm.
credit union standpoint, it's been the ease of use, right? I mean, it was something, one more thing that I had to do that now I don't have to do, and it costing me little to nothing to get it done. Actually, in this case, I think nothing to get it done.
Mhm.
So that's a big win for credit unions. Looks like there's a question here for me, which is, which AI use case typically delivers the fastest ROI for credit unions? Uh, Yeah, I gave some. We talked about some examples early on, and about the early use cases with risk and underwriting. And I remember some of the first use cases we saw was around this chatbots. And I say this not from an ROI standpoint, but just from one of the first things that popped up around. You started seeing organizations had little chatbots. Folks have had the little customer service or member service sort of boxes on their websites for a long time, but that started evolving. And while it has ROI from a cost saving standpoint, perhaps from an efficiency standpoint, um, as somebody who's been in marketing analysis, I would kind of lean on um, the marketing outreach is probably one of the quickest and fastest ROIs you can get. And the interesting thing about it is you get to dictate as an institution, you get as a marketing team, you get to dictate that. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. We have a credit union that for their first use case that they did with us from personalization standpoint was I want to get more members starting to use my mobile app. And they've been doing this every 2 months, reaching out. Well, started using the tool, personalizing it, and bringing in very personal, letting the members know that they know the credit union knows them, and immediately started seeing 30, 40, 50%. So again, it's not a direct ROI in terms of like somebody went out and got a new product and you saw some profit jump or you issued new loans or you met your goal, but it did get immediate adoption from the members using that mobile app. So there's a big, that if that's the measure, it's not a direct investment ROI measure, but if that's a measure of success. So, the credit union decided that that was the first thing they wanted to do. Then they liked it. They moved on to say, well, let's start doing something along like auto loan runoffs, where we will recapture auto loan recaptures and start recapturing those loans. Well, that's a direct ROI impact. So again, as a credit union, they decided the first one they wanted to do was that. But personalization, even there, they've seen things like 8 to 10% increase in the auto loans that they've been signing up for. So you can, I think from a AI has made it easy for you to pick where you see the most value. If the value is profit, then maybe credit card growth could be the one. So I think that's the big thing I'd kind of take away from this is what our AI use case. the concept of ROI is a little bit more different, I think is what I mean by that is what is different. ROI means something different for everybody. So find that particular piece and use AI to embed and enhance that a little bit. Um, Question for you, Tara, is what concerns do participating credit unions have initially once they start with the platform, and how are these concerns typically addressed?
Yeah, I think it's the time piece. Even though we really tried to have the asks be less than 60 minutes of really focused credit union work. So that's setting up the domain, verifying the DNS, submitting the data. Different credit unions have different levels of sophistication with their data capabilities. So sometimes that can be a little bit of a challenge. Security. So we always let them know that we've got the SOC 2 compliance, right? Things are good, and we've got a proven platform as far as data that we already use for our Wincentive savings accounts that's very secure as well. So I would say that's probably it. We really try to, we have a really complete onboarding guide that walks credit unions through step by step what they need to do as far as setting up the web form, the domain, the DNS. So we try to make it as easy as possible.
Absolutely. Um, I'll take this as the last question because there's actually two that have popped up, but I think this might be interesting. Is what is the AI trends that credit unions should be paying attention to over the next 2 to 3 years? And Tara, I'll take a stab at it, and then feel free to add anything that you might be thinking about as well from your standpoint. Um, One thing that we're seeing, and I don't know if this is gonna, I think if anybody tells you they know what's gonna happen 5 years from now, that's a made up story. I mean, nobody can tell you what's happening 5 years. And I frankly think even 3 years is a bit of a stretch because the rate of change is just moving fast. And we're starting to hear more about just larger organization, while enterprise-wide, sometimes even larger than that, implications of some of these tools that are coming out. I was reading some articles about what like Anthropic is doing. But so from the next 2 to 3 years in the credit union world, we are going to see a lot more agentic processes. So think about it this way. The way I describe it is almost like the robot process automation using AI. And I'll give our own product and probably put it in perspective. We've got 5 different modules, right? So there's a data capture module, and then there's an analytics module, and then there's a creation module, and each has portions of AI built into it. Well, eventually, where we're headed as well, and where I think the industry there's an agentic processes that will basically, that's sort of a master agent where you can go in and say, I want to engage my younger members. And that kicks off a series of AI processes on the back end. So it's almost like now you've got an agent determining processes. By the way, this is already happening. So it's not necessarily a trend, but I think that's something that's going to accelerate more and more. So when you are as a credit union, even if you're a small credit union, you might be thinking, oh, let me take one piece and find a way to automate it. Absolutely do that if that's your starting point. But recognize that very soon those multiple small pieces will probably be able to be run. Once you start doing it, it's like this ball that gets faster and faster. You'll start sort of gathering you'll take these multiple little processes and almost have like this process automation or an agentic process that starts running it. And again, the implications of that are pretty wide. It can go from the complete loan origination process or complete marketing process. A marketer just decides a few different little things, and the file and every single part of it is just automated on the back end. So I think that's one big area that we're going. Tara, what are your thoughts as far as next 2 to 3 years AI automation for credit unions, or AI trend for credit unions?
Yeah, absolutely on the process automation. I mean, one thing we're seeing a lot more of on the ground is those AI assistants. People are having some fun with branding and naming them. So having that as a member service option.
For sure, for sure. Perfect. I mean, I'm going to stay on for just a couple more minutes. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Really do appreciate your time. I know it's midday on a Thursday, so once again, thank you, everybody, for joining.
Thanks for the conversation.
Yeah, thank you, Tara, for your time. It's always a pleasure to see and hear from you.
You as well.